Oh, thank you. Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Emma Murphy, as you just heard. And this summer I did my fieldwork at Copa Grande, Santalimia in Sierra, Spain, looking at Neanderthals and modern humans. So I found this field school opportunity actually on the BU Archaeology website. They have a lot of different resources there. If you're interested, there's a ton of different topics as well. My specific school was through the Center for Field Sciences. It was around 4,400 for the program. It lasted 4 weeks through June to July. And the only final assignment was just a final paper after just kind of talking about everything you did during your time there. This was my team, all very lovely people. We stayed in a little town that had around 150 people in it, in a youth hostel in Saint Laurent de Montgay. We were offered 2 meals a day with breakfast and dinner, and yeah, it was really a beautiful place. And the team was made up of students and faculty from the University Autonomous of Barcelona, as well as just volunteers from around the country. So, a little about the site. Copa Grande Santalimia is a rock shelter at the bottom of the Pyrenees Mountains. It is an interesting site because it kind of has the opposite of the law of superposition, which, as you may know, it means that things closer to the surface of the ground are younger and things further down are older. At this site, it was the opposite. So things higher in elevation were actually older and younger was down at the bottom, and that had to do with erosion from a local river. So the river had changed over time, so you can't really see it here. But the river was eroding all of the early Paleolithic time, and then Neolithic settlers came in and occupied the space. So we actually were excavating in this area over here, but the excavation started in 2002, I think, around there. During this time, they've been excavating the area for around 20 years, but they found human skeletal remains around 15,000 years old, as well as the majority of stone tool making, which is what I was looking for. So here are just kind of the different sectors of how it looked on the ground. The higher Paleolithic sites were found on the higher end of the elevation, and the lower Neolithic sites were further down. I was in this site, which was S2E. You can read about it in the papers, but I was looking for stone tools. So in the field, they really emphasize a slow, careful excavation, not exaction. Sorry. And just observance. So we kind of worked very slowly in little square packets, and then we took a little screwdriver, just dug around and swept and looked for things in situ. The main objective was to follow the natural slope of the land, so it wasn't like a straight right across horizon, it was all at a slant, so we had to carefully pay attention to that as well. We were looking for things in situ, different types of stone tools, different flakes or different generational flaking things. During the time, we also took the geometry of the space, so we used a prisma and a total station to take individual points and then store materials. So here's some examples of, I'll play a little video of me excavating, but here's some examples of things I was finding in situ. So these are a couple of BPS, which are broken flakes. I'm pretty sure that was a broken flake as well. And then after we'd find the materials, if we couldn't find anything in situ, we would go to the sifter, dump it in water, shake it around, and kind of look for any silics or things like that. But that's kind of what the process looked like. And then we were taking points. So we would put down these little QR codes at every point, and then we went through a bunch of different steps of how to do it. But that's the Prisma, and that's me taking different points. It was actually really cool. The local news station came by and took a recording of us, so that's actually from their local news station. This is kind of what the end result looked like. So each layer is a different time period. We were way down here doing all of these points, and like the orange and the blue. Once all the material was collected, we would go to the lab in the morning the next day. We would wash the material and label them with these very tiny QR codes, and we would put them on with some paraloid. It's a newer way to process information, but we would go through and try to identify the different types of sources, if they were carbon, if they were organics, if they were different types of lithics, and what they were kind of attributing, if they had patina, if they were cortex, and those sorts of things. So we would help identify that, and then the professors would go from there and kind of reaffirm that those were right, and then we would put them back into the lab and back into the data center. So it was a lot of fun. Here's some examples. Here are things that we did with Paraloid. This is kind of just what the setup looked like in the lab. And from this, there were a lot of advantages and drawbacks from the different program, mainly advantages though. My program was very one-on-one, which is the type of learning that I like. We learned through doing, and even though you could mess up sometimes, all the instructors were there to help you and kind of get you through that experience. The application of the new data techniques would be the QR codes. They really emphasized that it was new. I don't really know that for sure though, but that's what they were kind of saying. And then specifically through the Center for Field Sciences, they offered a very interesting program where after you were done, you got like this little certificate that says everything that I did. This is basically my report card, so don't look at that one. So yeah, it was really cool. And then after this program, they allowed you to, you're like signed up for a different archaeology CRM package where they give you weekly updates of different jobs in your area and different ways to apply for those jobs. So they really set you up for your future. The main drawbacks were the language gap. They spoke mainly Spanish, which I'm proficient in, but I'm not proficient in Catalan, which is the local language in Catalonia. So that was interesting. And also the weather, it was very hot. And I don't do well in the heat. But other than that, that's everything.
We'll take any questions for Emma that you have.
So you were finding, it was like mostly skeletal remains, flakes, but were there any other kinds of artifacts that you found and kind of had to deal with that were different than those two?
Yeah, so actually in the video, after down here, you kind of get to see me going through some charcoals. Way eventually. I'm kind of sifting the bucket here to look for different of the big black spots, and I'm putting them all in this tube. So they were collecting charcoal samples. The human remains were only in one of the pits. I was in like the Neolithic pit, which looked mainly at different stone tools. But actually, for the majority of the project, they thought we were sitting in the middle of a hearth. And so we just kept digging and digging and digging. You can't see in the video anymore, but there's a huge limit from where we thought the hearth was. It actually wasn't there, so that was really embarrassing. But yeah, just sorts of those stone materials was the main objective. Yeah.
How did they gauge your proficiency levels?
Honestly, we just worked very closely with the professors and with different PhD candidates. Every day in the beginning, we were side by side. So there would be a student, a PhD student, a student, a professor in the pit. So everyone was observing everything until eventually it got to a point where they felt a lot more comfortable with you doing the work, and then it was just like, if you have a question, you can come through. But it was just kind of based on the student and the professor in general. There's a lot of side-by-side work though, which I appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks.